The first thing is that we get excellent exam grades. We have consistently got these over 25 odd years now. We average around about 80% A star to B. We do get an awful lot of A stars. And we've had 2 students in the top 5 in the country. One got a 2-page spread in the Times newspaper because she did so well. The other one actually got 100% in absolutely everything she did other than one short question. So, and then went off to Cambridge University. So we do get good grades. Many of our students go off to university each year to read law. Some of them go off to read similar subjects like criminology, but each year we get about 8 to 10 students go off to read straight law, and these are at good, strong universities. So, for example, this year we've got 2 going off to York University. In terms of careers, not all students will go off to become lawyers, but we have got a huge number that have, and this has got a number of benefits. We know of 70 odd students that we're in contact with that over the years are now in the legal profession. Most of them are solicitors, but it does include some barristers too, and obviously this provides a really good point of contact should you be thinking of going into the profession yourself, because we will be able to put some of you in touch with some of these ex-students who are usually all too willing to help. Also, in terms of other careers, law leads into a varied careers. So we've got a lot of our students that are now in the police that I'm still in contact with. We have some that are in insurance, and you take insurance exams. In those exams, there are legal exams, very similar to some of the ones that you'll be doing over the course of the next 2 years. The same with banking and also with accountancy, which is my background. Right, I'll talk you through a little bit about the course content. This is really one of the reasons why I actually teach law. I've taught 5 A-levels since being at Boswell's. Law is certainly either my favourite or one of my 2 favourites. And it's because it's so varied and also interesting. The top 3 that you'll see, criminal law, tort law and contract law, you effectively get given scenarios and you'll be asked kind of like questions pertaining to criminal law, such as murder, manslaughter, GBH, ABH, and you'll act as the solicitor giving advice as to whether somebody is guilty or not guilty, or in the case of tort and contract law, whether they're liable or not liable. So it might be that you'll get a scenario saying Mrs. Flanagan and I are in a pub and Mrs. Hayes starts throwing glasses at us or something, and then I chuck glasses back, she chucks a table at me and I knife her or something, and then you'll have to untangle that and look at defences such as self-defence, whether I'm mad, intoxication, all different things like that, and spin it out and decide who's actually going to be criminally charged. With tort law, this is the criminal law, by the way, is the area that Mrs. Flanagan teaches. I teach tort law. Negligence, nuisance, occupiers liability, vicarious liability. These are not meant to mean much to you at the moment, if anything. But for example, if I invited one of my mates around my house to play FIFA and he fell through the stairs, he could sue me under occupiers liability. If I leave a chair on the floor and it's difficult to see and you fall over it, you could sue in either negligence or occupiers liability. You probably haven't heard of vicarious liability, but vicarious liability will be if, for example, I was working at Sainsbury's and I dropped some cans of baked beans on your head and you wanted to sue. You could sue me, but if I was a poor student, I might not have any money. So you might want to sue Sainsbury's instead. So it's a case of our employers liable for the torts of their employees. Also, interestingly, parents for their children, and we could look at pets as well, but most of the questions are based on employers. Contract law is really useful in the workplace, incredibly so, and also if kind of like you make any purchases and you want to return them. I've been taken things back before where they've offered me a credit note, meaning I've got to spend the money in the store, and if the goods are faulty, you can demand a refund and you can point out the Consumer Rights Act 2015. They look very confused and then hand back the money. I've got a number of cases like that I can go through with you. It's actually very, very useful in a practical sense. There's the English legal system, and again, you're not meant to have any prior knowledge of this, but looking at things that you'd expect to, like judges, juries, solicitors, barristers, and looking at how they're appointed, the work that they do, and the advantages and disadvantages of using them, and then also how laws are made. So, for example, through legislation, acts of parliament, through and so forth. And then in the second year, we do some essays which require some debate. They require knowledge of the other areas that you looked at. But for example, justice in the law, and we look at, is the law racist? Is it sexist? And we look at that from both a male and female perspective and so forth. And sometimes we can have some quite heated debates. But at the end of the day, if you're able to have those heated debates, you clearly understand the subject. We've averaged well above a grade A on these essays when they've come up in the past. Right, in terms of visits, we go on a number of school visits. The Old Bailey in central London, which is the main central Crown Court in the country, where if you've got a big terrorism case or anything like that, it tends to be in the Old Bailey. The High Court in central London, which is a fantastic building, and it's very much like a cathedral, but there are lots of court cases going on inside it as well. They're civil cases rather than criminal cases. We try to take you to Chelmsford Crown Court a couple of times. Again, you tend to see some quite big cases there, often big drugs cases. We've been into a number of murder cases. They're really quite interesting. And Chelmsford Magistrates Court, when we go there, we try to go for sentencing because it's often small, petty criminal offences, but nonetheless, sentencing is really, really interesting and you get an awful lot from that. Some of these cases that you go into will be not so exciting. Others of them are the best drama you'll possibly ever see in your life. I've been to some cases where the students have come out and argued about them for kind of like weeks afterwards and kept discussing them in class. There are others where we come out of the case and we've not really known what it's about. I haven't either. So you take your chances, but if you go into enough cases, you do find some really, really interesting ones. There are some quite rude ones, but I can't really talk about that in this medium, but I'll tell you about that when I see you. Right, in terms of extra information, no prior legal knowledge is needed at all when you come onto the course. You may feel that you've got some knowledge from TV shows and so forth, but in actual fact they often get the law wrong, and by the end of the course you'll be able to spot that. So, as I say, you don't need any information. We'll teach you as you go along. In terms of textbooks, personally, I found them extremely poor. There's recently one that came out, 25-mark question, and it had just one line on it. We provide you with all the information you need to get a high grade. If there was a good textbook out there, we will buy it for you. There's not, in my opinion. When we did provide textbooks for students, we had a student that got 100% in loads of exams. She did extremely well. And I asked her for a textbook back at the end of the course, and she went very red and admitted that she'd actually lost the textbook on the second day and had never used it. So I really don't feel that at the moment there's one that's worthwhile particularly to get. We enter a team usually into mock bar trial. We've done exceptionally well in the past. We often have reached the finals. We've had an international indeed. We were selected for an international to take place against Australia in the High Court. We've been to Edinburgh, we've been to Cardiff. We reached a final in the Old Bailey, but that was cancelled due to COVID. We hope to be able to run it within the next couple of years, mock bar again, but obviously the Citizenship Foundation will need to run it fully, and at the moment it can't due to COVID, but hopefully it will be able to when things settle down. We are sponsored generously by Tees Law. They've given us all the money we actually need in order to get student success. So I look forward to meeting you all in September. If you've got any questions, feel free to email me, or indeed, I'm up in C7 usually. If you had any particular questions, feel free to come up and see me in C7. And I look forward to meeting you all.